Finally, some more bunny girl senpai. I've waited years for this. Wait, where is she? Where is she? Is this it? Heyo guys, I was originally going to be reading Sister Venturing Out and post a video about that and then make another video for the next book, but I took forever to do that. And I of course pre-ordered both books, just dying to get some more bunny girl senpai because I imagined that it would take a while before we got another season for the anime, and the manga seems to be really behind or just not coming along. And you know, the light novels are out, so I thought I'd do that, and then you know, the animes got announced. But hey, that's not gonna stop me from reading them, and that's what I did. But hey, I'll let you know in this video if the light novels are worth the read, and if the next season should warrant your hype. And you know, spoilers, yes it will, because if you're a bunny girl senpai fan, you're gonna be excited about the new Rascal Does Not Dream of season. And it did take forever to get these light novels localized. There are 12 in total, and we are finally catching up with 9 releasing a bit ago. And if you're anime only, the series has only covered up the first 5 volumes, and the movie covered volumes 6 and 7. And after that, there's only 5 more volumes, and the light novels have not completed the story just yet, but enough for another season. Unless they do the Demon Slayer thing and release the movie as the first part of the anime, which would make sense because unless you illegally streamed it or paid for the Blu-ray, a lot of fans I imagine missed out on the movie or don't know about the movie because it's just released as a movie and did not stream anywhere, and it was only available to watch in theaters for Japan. And honestly, the Blu-ray release for the movie is really expensive, and only a fool like me will pay the tax that was that movie because I am so lazy. I don't like to watch movies on my laptop or on my phone. I'd rather watch it on the TV. And I know that I could easily just connect my laptop or my phone to the TV and watch it that way, and why didn't I do that in the first place, actually? Well, now I have the Blu-ray release, and it's nice, I guess. I'm not gonna buy the season because that's also really expensive, and I guess I gotta rethink all my choices. But let's talk about the books and the story, and obviously I'm gonna put some spoiler warnings here. I'm gonna talk about what happens in the novels, but I will be like kind of vague about it. I won't be fully descriptive. I'm gonna talk about the main points, so watch out for that. But hey, these are words and they mean nothing unless we get to see Mai animated and in action. And let's just get into it. The first light novel is Rascal Does Not Dream of a Sister Venturing Out. And I'm actually really happy that I waited for the newest volume to come out because this volume, at least for the light novel, is very tame unless I miss something really important or maybe it's just going over my head a little bit. As you can tell, this story is going to revolve around Kaede, Sakata's little sister, not Nolika, Mai's little sister, because we already got that and that got resolved and they're growing characters now. But Kaede's story never got resolved after the ending of the first season, really. Because think about it, the Kaede that we knew from the first 3/4 of the anime disappears when the original Kaede, the one that Sakata grew up with, comes back, and you know, her story isn't resolved yet because she still, you know, is traumatized by everything that happened to her in school. So a majority of the story is spent on Kaede and how she has to return to school because she is still afraid to go out and afraid of people, and then the next step for her is going to high school, and guess what school she wants to go to, and that is of course the same school as Sakata. And a really good portion of this part is just her studying because it's really hard to get into this school, and we start to question how even Sakata got into this school as well. And in the middle of her studying, we also have Sakata that needs to study because Mai is pushing him to go to the same college as her, and of course she's going to a really good college, so that means Sakata has to really study and really prepare because how is he gonna even get into this, like, I imagine like a really high level, high education college because Mai's going there, you know? She's like the perfect girl in this series. But like I said, Kaede is still really shy and really nervous around a lot of people, so when it comes time to take the test, unfortunately it all gets to her and she is unable to actually finish the test because she gets recognized, and then that just like destroys her whole confidence to take this test. Poor Kaede is just going through it this volume because you're just rooting for her the whole time because she is working so hard to get over this anxiety. She works really hard to just go to the school and drop the application, then having to go on the train alone, and then having the anxiety of being around people during a test. And there are still flashes of adolescent syndrome because she starts to get a couple bruises around her body, but it's so minor, and that's why I say that this is one of the more tame stories, and the series. But thankfully for Kaede, she has her brother Sakata, and he's a great character. He's such a good guy, man. He might look like your ordinary standing character, but he is more than that. He's a guy you wish to be. He's such a great brother, and he's also the luckiest guy, as he refers to himself, for having Mai as a girlfriend. But back to being a good brother, because he is always on her side. He is in her corner. He is always pushing her to be better, to be confident that she can do this, and that she always has him and her friends and family to back her up. Those made for some great moments, but the best moment was when Sakata and Kaede talked about the big elephant in the room, the two Kaedes, and how maybe Kaede thought that Sakata loved the new Kaede more than her. But then, Sakata clears that out and says, like, no, I love both of you guys. You are both my sister and I love you guys equally. And this really needed to be addressed, at least for me, because I thought in the first season it came and went and they didn't really address it, especially talking about like the other Kaede with the original Kaede, because we had the movie and that kind of skipped over that whole part. So I'm glad it circled back and we got this amazing moment right here. And now that Kaede finally has that weight off her shoulder that she had to compete with the new Kaede, now she was free to make any decision that she wanted to do, and that meant the school, because she wanted to go to the same school as Sakata because that's the other Kaede's wish, but now she gets to choose on her own what school she wants to go to. And that is the major plot line for this light novel. It's what Kaede wants to do with her future, and of course that means picking a school and having to get over her anxiety. And even with that main focus, we still don't get that many like crazy abnormal, adolescent syndrome. There's nothing crazy at least going on. The only thing we get to see is just sometimes Kaede will get bruising on her body, which was shown in the anime. But if you wanted to read more of the supernatural adolescent syndrome occurrences, you have to wait for the next volume, but we do have setups in Sister Venturing Out. First off, we do get to see Shoko one more time, and she's moving away from the area where, Sakata lives. And she brings up the most interesting thing that apparently now in this timeline, and the whole timeline thing is really confusing, and you really have to watch the movie for it, because I would not be able to explain it well, but there is this Japanese idol that did not exist in the prior timeline before the movie, and now she's in this timeline, and it's really confusing her of who it is, and maybe it has something to do with adolescent syndrome. And this mystery Japanese idol is like making background appearances because Sakata is now aware of her, that she exists now. But this plot does not get resolved during this volume, and it doesn't get resolved in the next volume, but it's this mystery that keeps brewing. It's one thing that I could not stop thinking about when reading these two novels. This mystery idol made for an amazing setup because I can't stop thinking about it and I can't wait for it to get resolved. But there was another setup in this volume that just went over my head because I thought it was just exclusive to this volume. And what went over my head was the topic of your relationship with your mother. Because we have a trip where we meet Uzuki Hirakawa, one of the members of Sweet Bullet, the same band where Doka is from. And here we also meet Uzuki's mother, and we get to learn that they have a great relationship. And that's something that Sakata and Kaede don't really have right now with their mother. But more on that topic later because that's the main focus of the next volume. But here we also learn about remote learning schools, which would be way more perfect for Kaede, because if she's not ready to go to class, this is a great alternative because there's still online groups where she can communicate with other people and then eventually assimilate with actually human contact. I don't know why that sounds kind of weird saying human contact, but she can finally be around people without the anxiety. And that ends up being her choice to go to that remote learning school. And that's when we finally reach the conclusion of this light novel where Kaede is finally making her choices for her own future. But hold up, I totally forgot to mention that at the beginning of the novel, Sakata is having a dream because he's always dreaming apparently, and he dreams of a girl that's really small and looks exactly like Mai. We're gonna call her Mini Mai. And Sakata is not really sure what this is. Is this another, symptom of adolescent syndrome? We don't find out until the very end. Because at the very end of the story, Mai is graduating from high school, and to celebrate, Sakata meets her up at the beach, and once again, at the same location just like the dream, he sees the little girl once more, and it's Mini Mai, and that is where the novel ends, and my interest peaked at that very moment, and I couldn't wait to read the next volume, and thankfully I forgot to read this volume, because now I could read these two volumes at the same time, and now we're gonna have to get into that one, Rascal Does Not Dream of a Knapsack Kid. This is where the story really gets going thanks to the events that kept getting hinted at in the Sisters Venturing Out volume. Here we have Mini Mai, and it gave me goosebumps for her reappearance in the finale, Her ominous reappearance wasn't going to be a happy visit, but something more to come since we had a lot of, adolescent syndrome absent from the previous volume. And to repeat myself like a broken record, I had missed the point about moms and your connection to them, because right after we see the little mini Mai, we get to see the real Mai, and Sakura goes up to meet her and is surprised that we're also going to be meeting Mai's mother once again. And Sakura shouldn't be nervous because he's already met her before, but this time he is getting introduced as Mai's boyfriend. And then immediately after that interaction, we have Sakura questioning Mai about her relationship with her mother. Are they gonna get friendly? But obviously Mai isn't ready to fully forgive her for what she did. And if you forgot why Mai doesn't get along with her mother, is because her mother had agreed for her to actually just wear a bodysuit at a really young age, a bikini set to be exact, and Mai wasn't ready to do that, and she didn't want to do that at a young age, and they are still not talking because of that. And then we fast forward back to Sakura's apartment, where we find out that once again he has a scar on his chest, and it has to be because of Mini Mai, right? And then we're gonna fast forward again because they are really confused about that and they don't have any answers, but they are gonna keep an eye on it. But the biggest thing about going back to the apartment was that they get a call from Sakura's father. And this phone call feels intense because, of course, why else would the father be calling? It's never good news, but this time it was good news that it was in fact that their mother had actually gotten better from her breakdown and that she was ready to see them again. And this is still an intense phone call for Sakura because he isn't sure if he's ready to go see his mother again. But the bigger concern is Kaede ready to go see her mother, because she might blame herself for the breakdown. And this is a big concern because the last volume was all about Kaede, and now it feels that we're really gonna conclude her storyline because she'll finally be able to see her mother again, and if she can reconcile with her and get over the breakdown, and maybe this will balance out Kaede and she won't have anxiety anymore and she'll never get adolescent syndrome again. But we are going over one important little fact, is that we are ignoring how Sakura feels because he immediately goes from himself, but the bigger concern is his sister, but we'll see in a bit why I bring this up. And of course, Mai is there and reassures Sakura that this is the right progression, that they should go see their mother. And if, Kaede is going to have a hard time, he is there to back her up. And while we're worried about Kaede, Kaede is actually ready. She really does want to see her mother again. And so they do decide to go back home to their parents, and the whole journey there is really intense because they're not really sure if they really are ready. I mean, it's been a while, but soon it turns really wholesome. Kaede and her mother reunite, and it's such a great moment for them because of everything they've gone through, and hopefully this helps us inch closer to concluding Kaede's story. It might have already, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But just seeing them together, they haven't lost a step, and it looks like they're back to being the same relationship that apparently they used to have before the breakdown. So it's a very heartwarming moment because they also have dinner just like a normal family, and something that Sakura didn't see happening in a while. But unfortunately for Sakura, he has to go back home, well, his new home, because he has to go back to school and also feed the cat, so he leaves. But Kaede stays behind with her mother and her father because, she doesn't have to go back to school, and, she's loving it right there at the moment. And here is where I start to get worried because I knew that something was going to happen because it can't be going this well, right? There was a bit of a bumpy road for Kaede trying to get into school and the anxiety of it all, but they made it through. And early on here, everything seemed to be working out well, right? Up until Sakura gets hit with adolescent syndrome. Let's not forget that big scar on his chest. Everything seems normal at first for Sakura. He wakes up, he goes to school, but then suddenly he realizes that no one's actually paying attention to him. And in fact, he's invisible. And now the whole story has gone full circle because this is how we first get to see adolescent syndrome, when we get to meet Mai, and then she's invisible to the whole world as well. No one can notice Sakura. He goes to see his friends, not even they can see him. He even calls Mai and he can't even reach Mai apparently. This is where I would have lost it. The tables have turned on Sakura and she's not even there to help, and he realizes that maybe it might have been set off because he went to go see his family, so he goes back to his family home, and then they don't even notice him because they are too busy being a family. Then he realizes what it could be. It was the lack of connection with his mother that had erased him from the world, because once he saw his mother again, he didn't really reconnect with her. And since she was the one that brought him into this world and she deemed him non-existent, so it was. He was no more, he was invisible. And while Sakura was so worried about his sister, he neglected his own feelings towards his mother, and that's why there is this barrier and this weird adolescent syndrome going on. And then this becomes a really heavy chapter, the emotions of shame and anxiety, not being there for your mother, the first unconditional love in this world. And I know the dark, sad truth that not everyone grows up with a loving mother, but if you do, please appreciate that shit. And this leads Sakata to the beach where he's alone in the darkness and he's just there sulking. And then we get the reappearance again of Mini Mai that asks Sakata, hey, are you lost? And Sakata just kind of agrees that yes, I think I might be lost, and Mini Mai says that he'll help him get home. And to some extent, Sakata is strangely calm about this adolescent syndrome going on because, I mean, he has gone through a bunch of trips already, so he's confident that he can fix this. So he agrees to go with Mini Mai. And he also finds it weird that he's holding hands with a little girl, but, he's invisible so no one can see him. And on the way, quote unquote home, on the way on the train, he knocks out and then he wakes up to a room that he doesn't really recognize at first sight. Sakata is back in his bedroom, but before the breakdown, before they had to move away from their parents, and he didn't realize it at first, and he's freaked out because how can this be real? But what grounds him is that he still has the scar on his chest, and this is a big indicator that he's going through adolescent syndrome, so he can't help but believe that it is real. And while yes, the novel is called Rascal Does Not Dream of a Knapsack Kid, I think this portion should be called Rascal Does Not Dream of a Perfect Life because Sakata has awoken up in I guess you could say a universe or a timeline where his life is perfect. In this reality, Kaede does not suffer from cyberbullying, and then also his mother doesn't have to go through a breakdown, and this is all actually thanks to something that Sakata does in this timeline, and he is a hero once again. But if that isn't perfect enough, his life is actually intact. He's still friends with the same friends, and he's still dating Mai somehow, so his life really is perfect. But there seems to be only one thing that isn't right about this reality, because there is a mystery girl, and that girl, her name is Ikagi, and this is actually a girl that Sakata knows from way back in middle school, but she does not go to the same high school as he does. And immediately my brain goes that this is the mystery pop star from the original timeline. This is going to get really confusing, but no, we don't get the answer yet, but this world is perfect nonetheless because she doesn't really seem to affect it just yet. But Sakata isn't happy because this isn't his life. But the one thing he gets out of it is that he's able to talk to his mother because here he isn't afraid of talking to her because there is nothing to, get in the way. She did not go through a breakdown. They are still mother and son that have been living together for all this time, so it's easier to talk to her. This helps him realize that he does in fact love his mother, that there is still a connection there to be saved. His conversation with this perfect timeline's mother has given him the courage to stand up to the mother back that he feels not that he actually neglected her, but emotionally neglected, but that he can go back to his timeline to stand up to his mother and tell her how much he actually appreciates her. And this part's really hazy in my mind right now, and I didn't actually write it down, but he finds Mini Mai once again and tells Mini Mai that he wants to go back to his life, his real life, the life back in his own timeline, and she questions this. Why would you want to go to something that isn't perfect? And he realizes right then and there that yes, life is hard, but you accept your life because it's yours, and you see the potential of great happiness back in your life, so it's not that hard to fix your issues, especially if you're Sakata. Life isn't always just as simple as that, but sometimes you do have to stand up for it, and then you grow as a person. That's what I'm trying to get at. Of course, you can live in a different alternate life where everything is perfect, but it isn't your life. And especially when the life back at home isn't all that bad anymore thanks to him standing up to all the problems and actually fixing and resolving them, and he still wants to go back to see his mother and face that truth. I mean, that's the most Sakata thing, he's always there to help and solve problems. And one funny thing I forgot to note that in this perfect timeline, Sakata still has a phone, and it's funny because he thinks about how funny that is because he doesn't have that, and he does notice how convenient it is to have a phone because he can easily just call Mai anytime. But then our Sakata returns to his timeline, and when he wakes up, he's back in his room and he realizes that there's a note on his desk and it's the other Sakata that got swapped with him from the perfect timeline, and he basically says, hey man, get your shit together, which is hilarious. And while Sakura's back in his own life, he isn't still sure how he's gonna beat this adolescent syndrome, but he thinks to himself that he still needs to go to school and start studying because he can't lose a step because he still promised Mai that he's gonna pass that exam. So he goes to school and then he decides to stay over at the school because he's never seen school in the night and they usually kick him out, and while he's invisible, he's gonna take advantage of that. But oddly enough, in the distance, he sees Mai and he can't believe his eyes because how is she there? She's still supposed to be out, working and filming something. But no, it is her, and she found her way back to him because she just had this feeling that someone was missing and she knew exactly where to find him. And it happens to be the same spot where Sakura declared his love for her. And this is my favorite part of the whole novel. My finding Sakura was great. The feeling was special. The warmth of it, the sensory of embrace, it was magnificent. Oh god, what happened to me? I used to go on live leaks for the shits and giggles, and I'm getting really giggly over this. The whole embrace and seeing this relationship really grow is fucking amazing. How Mai is more open to being affectionate with Sakura and how much Sakura really deserves this from everything that he's done and gone through. I love this embrace. And of course, Mai is there to give him the strength to go see his mother because he's not ready. He is ready, but getting there, he just needs the push. And finally, when he goes to meet his mother and reconcile with her, it's a tearjerker, man. It's so heavy. Don't forget to appreciate the little things you don't see or take for granted because Sakura realizes this. He never realized how hard it must have been for her mother going through that breakdown and working really hard to get back to normalcy to see her kids and be back with her family. And then Kaede comes in there and then she starts crying and then everyone starts crying. It's a good moment. You're crying, I'm not crying. And this is where we conclude the whole mother arc, and it's a feel-good moment at the end. And then we have a fast forward before the conclusion of the book, and this is usually not my favorite because it feels like you miss out on a lot of things, especially because this is a slice of life. But it was not a perfect year because apparently he pisses off Mai because he fails his college exams. And apparently they don't talk for a little moment there, but Naruto helps Sakura pass his exam, and hopefully everything's okay now, right? Because Sakura graduates high school and everything should be good to go. He should be going to the same college as Mai. And this is when I begin to get scared because the novel was coming to a close. And it was too nice and warm of a conclusion. And I know that there are more novels up ahead, so it can't end this happy. I mean, who says that a novel can end happy and still have more volumes? But I know this series and I know it's not gonna end like this. And right on cue, Mini Mai makes another, like the third appearance. And what's also this, we also get to see Ikagi in this timeline, the girl who I think might be the mystery pop idol. But unfortunately, we don't learn if she really is because this is where the novel ends and I can't wait for the next novel. But let's go over some closing thoughts about these novels. Will the new anime season be worth the wait? I think it will be, especially if you're a fan, but I'm also confused because they're making a movie for Sister Venturing Out, and I'm gonna assume that it's gonna cover these 2 volumes, and it's gonna be a really good package, but you're gonna be left with that cliffhanger of a mystery about the mystery pop idol. Of course, the cliffhanger isn't about the mystery pop idol. I'm just assuming that Ikagi is the mystery pop idol, because of course we also have Mini Mai, and that's another mystery in itself. I do still hope that we get a season, like a proper season, even if they make it like the Demon Slayer season, because there's enough content there to be animated if you include the other volumes that have yet to come out, at least in the US. But I want a full season because we waited so long to get more Bunny Girl Senpai, and you're telling me that we're gonna get a movie? That's gonna be over so fast. We waited. We want a full season. So I'm recording this post because I recorded the original recording a while ago, and it looks like the movie will only focus on Kaede and her story about going to school, and then the other part, the Knapsack Kid, will be a separate movie. And I gotta admit that this is really questionable, and I don't know why they went this route because just the Sister Venturing Out movie, it's not gonna be a very good movie. I mean, it will be fine. There's a lot of development. There's some character development for Kaede, but let's be honest, it's not the strongest standalone movie. It should have just worked as a couple episodes in the season. The Knapsack Kid will make for an interesting movie because it does have a cliffhanger of an ending, but I think this is so questionable on the movie maker's part. I don't know. I do not know why they split into 2 movies and then just a big gap in between. I think this is gonna hurt the why do I want to say Rent a Girlfriend? The Bunny Girl Senpai hype. I'm gonna go ahead and say that these movies will hurt the Bunny Girl Senpai hype because it's been forever since the first season and then the first movie, and now we have 2 more movies, and these don't really work well as standalone movies because there's just too much hype. Not hype because that first movie is not going to be hype, but you know, for Knapsack Kid, you're gonna have that cliffhanger which will create hype because what is going on, but we're gonna have to wait again for the next movie, and who knows when that will be because it hasn't been announced or greenlit, so we're still in limbo on that. But for those that have watched Sister Venturing Out, what did you think of it? Let me know down in the comments. I have seen some comments or videos or shorts saying that they think that it was boring. I won't try to fight you there. Not a lot happens in Sister Venturing Out. It's a very tame story. Not a lot happens. It doesn't feel like Rascal Does Not Dream of because nothing superstitious goes on, nothing crazy goes on. It's just a very tame story about Kaede. But please do not give up on Bunny Girl Senpai, Rascal Does Not Dream of series, because it does get better. I haven't read the next volume, but Knapsack Kid is worth going back to. It's very fun. I really like that book, and I really can't wait to watch that movie. And go back to the original recording now. And another good question is, are these light novels worth the read? But it also comes with another question, do you like reading books? It really comes down to that. It doesn't look like they're keeping up with the manga, so it's the only way to get more Bunny Girl Senpai right now. But the one thing I could tell you about these light novels is that they are short and an easy read, but it is reading. And before we come to a close, I want to talk about my favorite parts, which are of course the Mai and Sagata interactions. I love that this relationship is growing and growing, and I want to see more of it, and I want to see it animated. And I did leave out some minor details and some major developments in their relationship, but if you guys are anime only, I don't want to ruin it here, and you guys really want to experience it for the first time, so you really have something big to look forward to, because honestly what keeps bringing us back is the relationship between Mai and Sagata, and you know, just Mai alone. But what about you guys? Let me know in the comments how excited you are about getting more Bunny Girl Senpai this year, because we are getting this movie this year apparently. If I'm wrong, let me know that too. Also, if you made it this far into the video, please do hit it with a like. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so I can find my very own Bunny Girl Senpai this year. It is the year of the bunny, right? And I hope to catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you. Where's my Bunny Girl Senpai?